That was Seahawks football of old, wasn't it? Shaky start, but they didn't let it stop them from being a great competitor the rest of the game. There's a lot of things to be encouraged about from this victory from the Seattle Seahawks today. They started out with a lot of problems, a lot of issues. I was watching this going, holy smokes, everything that could have went wrong for Seattle. First half was something you want to forget, but the way they adjusted in the second half was promising. Mike Macdonald pulled this team together and pulled out a victory 26-20 against the Broncos. I loved how the defense played today. They looked like a defense that looked scary. They looked like a defense that wasn't uncertain of where their assignments were. They were able to tackle. They were able to do things that they just have not been able to do for many years. This new regime looked poised, and they made the turnaround in the second half, which was the difference in them winning this football game. In the first half, we obviously saw a very, very bad showing to start out the game. But it is not always how you start. It's really more about how do you respond to the adversity at hand. It was incredible to me that the Seahawks were only down the way that they were when they had 2 turnovers. They had an interception, and then they had a muffed punt, and somehow, some way, they only gave up 6 points. And then they had a safety. It was not good by any means. If you look at this score, it's probably even a lot better in the Seahawks' favor if the offense wasn't giving so many yards to the Broncos. And I have to give credit to Bo Nix. Many people rag on Bo Nix, and they're like, he's so old. The way he played today, he was pretty poised. I think Sean Payton was holding him back in a lot of ways. I'd say probably the same thing even with Russell Wilson. I think Payton's style of offense is maybe not as competitive for the style that the league is now. And that's why young guys like Mike Macdonald or a Mike McDaniel or a Sean McVay are starting to make an impression upon the NFL that going young makes sense. They have different ways of how they do things, and it's kind of showing on full display why things have to be done differently in this NFL. And I think Bo Nix, good start for him. Obviously, he wasn't able to move the ball around, but I think that gives credit to the Seahawks secondary. I love the pickup of Dodson. I feel like he was everywhere today. And I'm still learning the players' names. That's what's crazy is I didn't watch a lot of preseason, so I'm still figuring out which number is who. The defense is so brand new. There's so many new players, and it's made the difference. They had an incredible game in the second half. I think the way they responded was so important. The halftime adjustments were incredible from Seattle. They came out being able to run the ball, being able to get passes completed to Lockett. They used their resources really well. It was a well-orchestrated win in the second half. It didn't start amazing, by no means, but the way they were able to be poised throughout the whole entire game, not let it get to them, and realize that the game is still very much within reach, because I think they got away with a win in a lot of ways. Most teams that give up 2 turnovers and a safety, they're not down by just 5 points. They're down by a monstrous amount of points. The way they were able to stay in it, despite the miscues, despite the issues at hand, was the difference and the reason as to why they won this football game. I don't know if you get this in Bo Nix's maybe 15th game, but you get it in his first game. You get it because, one, new regime on that side of the football field as well, new regime on the Seahawks side. It was a great competition. Broncos are always a competitive team when Seattle plays them, and it was another fun game to watch. It was exciting. I think there was also moments where the Broncos, they had some opportunities that they just missed. But the defense of Seattle is something that is just so exciting. It's good to see and exciting to see that potentially the defense is back. Or at least there's a defense that has some sort of ability to stop them on third downs. Stop them and not give up big chunk plays. And they're able to be giving a lot more pressure. Tariq Woolen's interception was impressive. His ability to just run across the whole field with the route that was ran. Wonderful win from Seattle. Looking forward to seeing what they do against the Patriots. Patriots pull off a surprising win against the Bengals. Something that was just completely shocking to me. I had absolute no belief that was going to occur. Certainly a lot of things to unpack in that game, but Seattle did a great job responding to the adversity at hand. They get their first win of the season. It wasn't pretty. I still think there's a lot of room for improvement. The offensive line had an injury with George Fant. Hopefully it's nothing serious. But overall, they've got a really build that O-line. I'm glad they got Connor Williams. I think that's a huge, important factor as the season goes along. Hope we can stay healthy. But at the start of the season, they're looking rough on the O-line. Not a lot of protection, not a lot of time to throw for Geno Smith. A lot of people are not a huge fan of Geno Smith. I'm not ragging on him. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he has what it takes to lead this team in this season. I think he gets a lot of bad rep for things that weren't really his issues to begin with. I mean, he's done a pretty great job considering the O-line struggles, and they've been struggles for quite a few years. I mean, a huge reason why they've struggled to run the ball, struggled to get passing, is because the O-line has not been able to protect well. There's an issue with Russell Wilson being here, and obviously it seems like John Schneider has been changing a little bit of his perspective to start maybe drafting O-line. It was a surprise when they picked in the first round a few years ago, or a couple years ago with the Russell Wilson pick, and so they also did some picks this year, and then also Abe Lucas. Like, it's surprising for them to kind of build like they have been, but it's what they need to do. And they also need to get guys to second contracts. They need to stop just letting guys walk. I mean, I remember when they traded Max Unger and got Jimmy Graham, and the Seahawks team was never the same. It's because O-line is important. You need people to be enforcers. You need guys in the trenches protecting your quarterback or opening up lanes for your running backs so that they can break through. I mean, it doesn't matter. Ken Walker is an amazing and great running back, but it does not matter if there is no ability for him to get into space. There's so many times today where he was unable to get through lanes simply because the O-line of Seattle is an area of growth. But I think the addition of the offensive coach of Ryan Grubb and the addition of the O-line coach whose name is not coming to mind right now, I think the addition of those will get this team going. 1 week, that's all that matters. 1 week is done. They got the first win. It wasn't pretty, but when you win, winning is what matters, right? I remember watching KJ Wright podcast last year, and he said, winning cures everything. And that's just the truth. When you're losing, that's when the critics are high. But when you're winning, man, if you can sustain these wins and still find a way despite not having your best football, that is what matters. And the Seahawks got it done today. They are 1-0. Let's see what they do next week against New England.